What would you do if you realized you and your young child were being hunted by two strangers in the pitch-black darkness of a rubber forest? Tonight, a nightmare scenario has descended upon Peaceful Farm. The melodic Christmas carols are gone, replaced by the roar of an engine and the deathly glare of headlights closing in from behind. Why are they targeting Diep? And what terrifying secret is hidden inside little Nye's Eurodong backpack that would make these criminals act so brutally? Don't scroll away. This isn't just a heart-pounding chase. It's a powerful lesson on a mother's instinct when she's backed into a corner. Join us for the most breathless 20 minutes of her life, where the line between life and death is just one sharp turn away, and where miracles don't come from Santa Claus, but from the extraordinary courage of a woman who used to be fragile. If you admire Diep's nerves of steel and believe that good always triumphs over evil, hit that like button right now to support Nye's family. The journey to protect Peaceful Farm and the secrets of the Green Library are about to take some shocking turns. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode, James's Search and the Shadow Master Revealed. Stay with us. Every sub is a spark that keeps the flame of peace alive. The next morning, the car arrived early to pick up James. He gave Diep a long, tight hug and lifted Nye high into the air, kissing her bright, rosy cheeks. As the car disappeared behind the mountain range, the farm suddenly felt unusually vast and empty. Diep led Nye back inside. The little girl seemed quieter than usual, her eyes fixed on the front gate. To chase away the sadness, Diep suggested, "Nye, why don't we open up your fortress backpack and see if there are any secrets inside?" Mother and daughter sat together on the wooden floor. When Nye unzipped the pocket embroidered with the word brave, she found more than just a pebble from her father. There was a stack of small slips of paper cut into the shapes of green leaves. On each leaf, James had written special missions for Nye to complete during his 10 days away. Day 1, feed the chickens for me and tell them all about your new backpack. Day 2, help mommy water the tree of life. Make sure it doesn't get thirsty. Day 3, draw a picture of your future school so I can help you build it when I get back. Nye squealed with delight. Daddy has so much magic, Mommy. He knew I'd miss him. So he left me this treasure map. The 10 days James was away meant Diep had to take on his share of the workload. On nights when the north wind blew hard and the tin roof rattled, loneliness would suddenly wash over her. She missed James's tall silhouette always there to shield her from life's worries, but then she would look at Nye. The little girl took her mission seriously. She woke up earlier and marched around the garden with her backpack on like a tiny security guard. Once Diep caught Nye talking to the pebble. "Hey, Stone Daddy, said you have the strength of the earth, right? Please help Mommy Diep's back, not to ache when she's pulling weeds." Her daughter's innocent words brought tears to Diep's eyes. She realized that James's parenting wasn't just about material gifts. It was about planting seeds of empathy and responsibility in their child's heart. Every night during their 20 minutes of peace, Diep and Nye flipped the hourglass. They didn't call James since the cell service where he was staying was very weak. Instead, they wrote notes to put in the secret mailbox inside the backpack. Daddy today, I helped Mrs. Lowy collect eggs. One egg was a little small. I bet that chicken misses you just like I do. James. It turned cold today. I started a fire in the hearth with the pine wood you chopped. The scent of the resin makes me feel like you're right here. Focus on your work. The farm is still green, and my heart is still warm. On the 7th day, a persistent drizzle turned the garden into a muddy mess. A few rows of vegetables were damaged, and Nee started sneezing. For a moment, Diep felt a flash of panic. The old trauma of the ICU days came rushing back. She took a deep breath and touched the hourglass. The sand fell slowly, a reminder to stay calm. She remembered James's words, "You are the doctor for our child and the farmer for our land." Diep didn't spiral. She cooked Nye a hot bowl of perilla porridge, rubbed warming oil on the soles of her feet, and read books with her in the greenhouse of dreams. Miraculously, when the mother stayed calm, the child recovered quickly. After just a few sneezes, Nee was back to her cheerful self, chatting about the kids in their photo album. It was then that Diep understood James going away wasn't just about business. It was his way of teaching her and their daughter how to be independent so that their family wouldn't. The sweet, lingering echoes of Christmas 2025 hadn't even faded into the morning mist when in late December, James received an important phone call. It was an invitation to a workshop on regenerative agriculture and soul healing in a remote highland region. This wasn't just a chance for James to learn for his Green Library project. It was an opportunity to connect with resources to help even more children struggling with illnesses. The trip was set to last 10 days. 10 days, it wasn't a long time, but for a family that had looked death in the face together, any distance felt like a challenge. The afternoon before he left, James took Diep out to sit under the old long-gone tree, their usual spot for planning the farm's future. He took his wife's small hands in his hands that were now calloused, but held incredible strength. Diep. James started his voice low and warm. "I'm going on this trip, not just for the farm, but because of the promise I made to kids like Nye. But my biggest worry is still everything here at home. The frost is heavy this time of year. Remember to remind Mrs. Lowy to cover the sprout beds carefully. And as for Nee," James paused for a second, watching Nye in the yard, busily practicing putting on her new backpack. He continued, "When she's sleeping at night, remember to check her breathing. Even though Dr. Min said she's fully recovered, I'm still in the habit of listening to her breathe before I can truly rest. If she misses me, tell her to flip the hourglass. Tell her that every grain of sand falling is a blessing I'm sending home to both of you." Diep smiled, her eyes as clear as winter sunlight. "Don't worry. This farm is my breath, and Nee is my heart. I'll take good care of my breath and my heart while I wait for you to come home. Go and take our faith with you. Just don't worry so much that you forget to eat and sleep." Instead of just leaning on each other, they had become strong, independent individuals, moving in perfect harmony. On the 10th day, just as the sunset touched the crest of the hill, a familiar honk rang out. Nee abandoned her bowl of soup, threw on her fortress backpack, and raced toward the gate. Diep stood leaning against the doorway, a radiant smile lighting up her face, which had grown just a little thinner. James climbed out of the car, looking a bit more rugged, with his sun-kissed skin, but his eyes were glowing. He pulled them both into a deep embrace, breathing in the rich scent of the earth, the grass, and the warmth of family. "Daddy, I finished all my missions. I even protected Mommy from the rain." Ly bragged excitedly. James looked at Diep and saw a newfound strength in her eyes. He realized then that peaceful farm had truly come into its own. That night, they lit a fire. James pulled gifts from the highlands out of his backpack, unique seeds, a wooden flute given to Ly by the local tribespeople, and valuable documents for the Green Library. But the greatest gift was simply being there. James took Diep's hand and whispered, "Thank you for keeping the home fires burning. I've traveled to many places and seen many beautiful sights, but nothing is as warm as the breath of you and our daughter under this roof." The hourglass was flipped once more. Their 20 minutes of reunion began. Outside, the winter of 2025 continued to pass, but in their hearts spring had already begun to bloom from the seeds of understanding and the time spent apart. At 5:00 a.m., the intercity bus rumbled to life outside the farm gate. Its headlights sliced through the thick suburban mist, shining directly onto the dew-soaked leaves of the long-gone trees. James stood there, a worn-out backpack over his shoulder, gripping Diep's hand. "I'm heading out. I'm leaving everything here in yours and Mom's hands," James said, his voice deeper than usual, tinged with the ache of leaving. He leaned down and kissed Ly's forehead while she was still half asleep in Diep's arms. "Ly, remember to be Mommy's assistant manager while I'm gone. I'll be back before the last grain of sand of our love runs through." The bus rolled away, and James's silhouette faded until it vanished around a bend in the dirt road. Diep stood in the silence until the engine was nothing more than a distant hum. A strange sense of emptiness washed over her. In the 3 years since leaving the hospital, they had never been apart for more than a single evening. Peaceful Farm was peaceful because of James, a man like a great tree, silently anchoring the soil while spreading his branches to shelter the two women in his life. Diep carried Ly inside. The kitchen still caught the scent of toasted bread and the coffee James had brewed. She took a deep breath and told herself, "I can do this because I am James's wife and Ly's mother." When Ly fully woke up at 8:00 a.m., she immediately noticed her father was gone. "Mommy, did Daddy really go find treasure for the Green Library?" Diep smiled and led her daughter over to her new backpack. "He did, and he left a secret road map just for you." In the smallest zippered pocket, James had left 10 sealed envelopes decorated with pressed leaves. Each one was numbered from 1 to 10. Trembling with excitement, Ly opened envelope number 1. Inside was a note in James's bold handwriting. To Assistant Manager Ly, your first mission is this: help Mommy check if the first rosebud on the hill has bloomed yet. If it is, give it a kiss and say, "Daddy James says hello." Then record it in Daddy's journal. Ly squealed with excitement. Any sadness over her father's departure was instantly replaced by the spirit of adventure. Throughout that morning, she skipped through the garden, her backpack fluttering on her shoulders like a pair of wings. She didn't just check on the roses. She hand-fed the chickens and solemnly read the farm rules out loud to Ly the dog. Diep watched from a distance, silently thanking her husband for his thoughtfulness. James hadn't just given her instructions. He had planted a sense of purpose in their daughter's heart, so she wouldn't feel abandoned while he was away. By the fourth day, the sky turned a leaden gray. Heavy clouds rolled in from the mountains, signaling a cold front, arriving much earlier than expected. The wind began to whistle through the cracks in the wooden doors, and the rustling of the pine forest behind the house grew into a violent roar. Mrs. Ly looked out at the vegetable garden with concern. "Diep, this looks like a hard frost is coming. Those young kale rows and the strawberries will be ruined if we don't get them covered in time." Diep scanned the area. Covering an entire acre of crops was an overwhelming task for 2 women and a small child. She missed James. If he were here, he'd be hammering stakes and pulling tarps with lightning speed, finishing the job in a flash. But now she was the one in the driver's seat. "I've got this, Mom. I'll head over and ask Nam next door to give me a hand. You stay inside and keep an eye on Nye." A bone-chilling drizzle began to fall. Diep threw on a poncho, tucked her pants above her knees, and worked frantically with Nam to pull black netting over the sprouts. Mud coated her hands and feet, and rainwater snuck down her collar, making her shiver. But only one thought occupied her mind. This is James's hard work, the hope of all the sick children who will soon come here. I cannot let it wither. While Diep struggled in the garden, Nye sat by the window, clutching the brave pebble her father had given her. She watched her mother getting soaked in the rain. Nye didn't cry. Instead, she took her toy camera, aimed it at her mom, and took an imaginary picture. She whispered to herself, "Mommy is a warrior, and I'm a warrior too." "Don't worry, Daddy James." That night, after the garden was secured and everyone had bathed in hot ginger water, the 3 of them huddled by the fireplace. The wooden house rattled in the wind, but inside it smelled richly of pine resin. James called. His voice sounded raspy over the phone from the highland mist. "Diep, I saw the weather report. There are high winds in your area. Are you and the little one okay?" Diep suppressed a tired sigh, replacing it with her calmest voice. "Everything is fine, honey. Nam and I got everything covered. Enhai was so brave today. She didn't fuss at all and even helped Grandma pick up dry kindling. Focus on your workshop. I've got things under control here." After hanging up, Diep sat, watching the grains of sand slip through the hourglass. She suddenly realized something. James's absence wasn't a loss, but a necessary silence for her to discover her own strength. For the past 3 years, she had lived in his shadow far too much. This trip was a test to help her grow, to become a true partner for James's bigger dreams. Nye was fast asleep on the sofa. Diep gently carried her to her room. She suddenly remembered James's advice. Listen to her breathing. She pressed her ear to Nye's tiny chest. A steady heartbeat, a breath that smelled of milk and sunshine. It was the rhythm of life itself, the most beautiful music she had ever heard. In that moment, all the exhaustion of a rainy, windy day vanished. She realized that happiness isn't the absence of hardship, but having enough reasons to overcome it. On the 8th day, the sun finally broke through. Faint winter rays filtered through the old glass panes of Diep's greenhouse of dreams. According to mission number 8 in her father's envelope, Ly had to draw a picture of the city of smiles. The two of them headed out to the greenhouse together. Diep set up her easel, feeling the smooth wood of the frame James had meticulously built for her. She started to paint. It had been so long since she had picked up a brush in such absolute silence and peace. She painted James standing on the hilltop nigh with her vibrant backpack, Mrs. Ly, by the strawberry patches, and herself smiling amidst the green sprouts. Ly sat beside her, busily coloring houses shaped like backpacks. "Mommy, I'm going to build a school where every classroom is a giant backpack. That way, if we get bored of studying, the whole school can just put each other on and go play." Their laughter echoed through the small, cozy space. Diep realized then that James was right to give her this little corner of her own. This wasn't just a place to paint. It was a place to rediscover her identity, a woman who wasn't just a caretaker and a planner, but a dreamer and a creator. It was that balance that would allow her to raise Ly the best way possible. On the afternoon of the 9th day, a stranger visited the farm. She was a woman around Diep's age, her face gaunt, but her eyes shimmering with hope. She was accompanied by a young boy, wearing a heavy medical mask. "Hello, I'm Beau's mother. Dr. Min told us about your farm. I wanted to come and see if it might be possible for Beau to join the Green Library soon." Diep looked at little Beau, and memories of Ly from 3 years ago came rushing back. She took the woman's hand, invited them inside, and brewed a pot of hot chamomile tea. She told them about Ny's journey, the Zero Dong backpack, and their faith in the healing power of the earth. Ly stepped up on her own to show Beau her new backpack. "Don't be scared. My daddy says this backpack has magic. When you come here, my daddy will make one just like it for you." Watching Ly share roasted chestnuts with her new friend made Diep feel incredibly warm inside. She realized that the mission of Peaceful Farm had truly begun even before James returned. The ripple effect of kindness didn't need fancy words. It started with the small gestures of a child who had just escaped death's door. The 10th day arrived, and the farm was buzzing with excitement. Mrs. Ly woke up early to prepare a chicken and a pot of bright red gack sticky rice. Ly ran to the gate every 5 minutes, never letting go of her hourglass. Just as the final grains of sand for the 10th day were about to hit the bottom, the familiar rumble of the forest green pickup truck echoed from the distance. Ly chirped like a little bird. "Daddy's home. Mommy, Daddy's home." The truck pulled up, and James hopped out. He had a bit of stubble now, but his smile was as bright as the sun. Before he could even set his bags down, Ly lunged into his arms, clinging to his neck, as if afraid he might vanish again. James carried her over to Diep. He noticed her hands, slightly swollen from the frost. He saw the vegetable garden still lush and green after the storm, and he saw the look of pure pride in his wife's eyes. Without a single word of explanation, James understood everything. He kissed Diep's forehead. "You did amazing, honey." Dinner that night was the best meal of their lives. James talked about what he had learned, the new friends he made in the Highlands, and his fresh ideas for the Green Library. He opened his bag and pulled out small gifts, a pouch of Highland wildflower seeds, a book about tiny wooden houses for Ly, and a warm sheepskin shawl for Diep. Diep's heart began to race. The road ahead was a long incline cutting through the rubber forest, an area with no houses and even fewer streetlights. She whispered to Ly, Honey, hold on to me tight. We're going to play a little game called Racing the Wind. Close your eyes so the wind doesn't sting them, okay? Ly nodded innocently, pressing her face against her mother's back. Diep took a deep breath. She knew she couldn't outrun a high-powered bike on her old scooter. She needed to keep her head. Suddenly, the bike behind them revved its engine and pulled up alongside Diep's left side. The passenger, a man with a long scar, visible beneath his helmet, reached out trying to grab the backpack off Ly's shoulders. "Pull over! Give us the bag!" he barked. His voice was muffled by the wind, sounding coarse and aggressive. Diep was stunned. Why the backpack? It was just a homemade cloth bag filled with school books and a few roasted chestnuts. But then she remembered the night before James had mentioned some vital research documents regarding a rare medicinal plant sent by the experts. He had a habit of tucked important papers into a secret compartment in Ly's bag to keep them safe while the family was out in the garden. Had that information leaked? Or did they simply assume the bag held something priceless from Peaceful Farm, which was becoming famous for its miraculous healing secrets? Diep grit her teeth and swerved to the right to dodge the scarred man's hand. She didn't stop. If she stopped here, both their lives would be in danger. She had to make it to the stretch of road where the houses began. The strangers began to squeeze her toward the slippery grass-lined shoulder. Her old motorcycle shuddered violently. "Mommy, I'm scared." Ly started to whimper. Diep shouted over her shoulder, "Ly, remember the brave stone. Daddy is waiting for us at home. You have to stay strong." In a moment of desperation, as their bike tried to cut her off and force her to a halt, Diep remembered a small walking trail nearby that led down to a dry creek bed. It was a shortcut James often took her on for walks. The path was narrow and tangled with tree roots, the kind of terrain a bulky, high-powered bike would struggle to navigate. Without hesitation, she slammed on the brakes and jerked the handlebars into the dark trail. The two men couldn't react in time. They shot past her before screeching to a halt and turning back. The trail was pitch black, with only her weak headlight flickering against the straight rows of rubber trees. Diep killed the lights. She knew that if she kept them on, she was a moving target. "Ly, get off. We have to run for a bit," Diep whispered. She led Ly behind a massive tree trunk, their breaths coming in heavy, jagged gasps in the silence of the night. Up on the main road, the engine roared again. They were back and searching. Flashlights began to cut through the edge of the woods. "I found the tire tracks. They went down this way." The scarred man yelled, his voice thick with rage. Diep looked at the backpack on Ly's shoulder. If they really wanted the bag, should she just give it to them to ensure their safety? But inside were memories, the mission letters, and all of James's hard work. More importantly, if she handed it over, would they even let them go? Diep noticed the toy camera inside the pocket of the bag. A daring idea flashed through her mind. She grabbed the camera. It had a specific feature. The camera had a feature that emitted a small siren and a strobing LED flash to mimic a police light. She handed the camera to Ly. "Take this run the opposite way about 20 yards and hide deep in the brush. When I yell, 'Go!' press the button. After that, we're going to run toward Mr. Nam's house." The two men had made their way down near the creek. Their flashlights were only a few steps away from Diep's hiding spot. "Come out of there. Don't make us do this the hard way." Diep stood up, feigning terror as she stepped out of the shadows, holding the backpack high. "I'll give you the bag. Just please leave us alone." Just as the two men let their guard down, stepping forward to snatch the bag, Diep screamed at the top of her lungs, "Go!" Instantly, from the bushes across the way, the flashlight began strobing rapidly, accompanied by a loud, wailing wee-woo siren that echoed through the woods. Ly was even smart enough to scream, "Daddy, police over here!" The criminals jumped. In the pitch-black woods, they thought a security team or the local police had surrounded them. The sound of the toy siren amplified, and echoing off the canyon walls in the confined space sounded incredibly real. "Crap, it's the cops. Let's get out of here." The driver panicked, spinning around and dragging the scarred man with him as they scrambled back toward their bike. Diep waited until the sound of their engine completely faded before she collapsed to the ground. Ly ran out from the brush and threw her arms around her mother, sobbing. They clung to each other in the middle of the rubber forest, huddled under the dim moonlight. A short while later, a different set of bright headlights appeared. This time, it was the familiar rumble of James's pickup. He had been unable to reach Diep by phone and had raced out to find her. He was accompanied by Nam and a few other men from the neighborhood. "Diep, Ly, where are you guys?" James's voice cracked with desperation. The moment she saw him, Diep finally let the tears flow. She ran to him, exhausted, but still clutching the backpack. James swept them both up into the truck, his hands shaking as he touched his wife's cold, trembling shoulders. Peaceful Farm did not sleep that night. Nam and the local watch group alerted the town police to hunt down the two strangers. As it turned out, they were part of a criminal ring that scouted rare plant breeds and agricultural research to sell to unethical corporations. They had been watching James's farm for a long time and assumed Ly's backpack held his most important documents. Back in the warmth of the wooden house, James sat beside Diep, gently rubbing the scratches on her arm. "I'm so sorry. I wasn't there to protect you," James said, his voice thick with emotion. Diep shook her head and picked up the backpack. It was covered in dust and dry leaves, but it was intact. She opened the small compartment and pulled out the brave stone. "No, James. Because of you, because of what you taught us, we made it through. This bag really is a fortress. It didn't just protect your research, it protected Ly's spirit." Ly had calmed down by then, sitting in Mrs. Loy's lap, still clutching the toy camera, the weapon that had chased away the bad guys. James looked at his wife and daughter, realizing a hard-won lesson. This farm didn't just need love and healing. It needed protection. Peace wasn't a given. It was something that had to be guarded with courage and a sharp mind. The next morning, the sun rose again over Peaceful Farm. James decided to install solar-powered lights along the entry road, and started teaching Diep some basic self-defense skills. Ly still wore her backpack to school, but now inside the brave pocket, alongside her father's stone, she kept a small photo of the whole family hugging. "Mommy," Ly said as she hopped onto her dad's bike. "I'm not afraid of the bad guys anymore, because I have a superhero for a mom and a fortress for a dad." James let out a hearty laugh and started the engine. Diep stood watching their silhouettes disappear into the morning sun. She understood now that life would always have shadows, lurking, and unexpected storms. But as long as their hearts remained steady and their love was big enough to turn simple things into shields, no darkness could ever blow out the light of Peaceful Farm.